Good morning, everyone. Let's start today's webinar. Let me preface things by a few technical details as well as introducing myself. My name is Openjdk. I'm a licensing consultant at IPR Insights License Consulting, and today we are going to be diving into the licensing news in Java SE licensing. To kick things off, let me do some chores first. Please let me know if you have any issues with video or audio. Okay, otherwise we'll progress, but let me know if there's any issue that you're experiencing right now. Also, let me advise you that the session is being recorded so that we can share it later online with you and other colleagues who couldn't make it at this time. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to ask. We'll address the questions as they come up. Alternatively, you can wait until the presentation is ended and then we can discuss any questions that you may have. Also, let me start by saying a few words about who we are and what we do. IPR Insights is an independent software asset management consultancy. The reason that we're here is that we saw a need at our customers that came up from a feeling that many share in the end user community, that transparency and clarity in software licensing is well, lacking, to say the least. And there's also a feeling that software publishers and software resellers have long been taking advantage of this information asymmetry that exists between customers and their side. Our goal, therefore, is to empower our customers and put them into a significantly better position for negotiations, purchasing decisions, as well as IT planning. Also, software licensing audits are a big part of what we do. We support customers in these software vendor audits, and we help them win in a lot of situations where previously they lost and had to pay huge fines to the publishers. So in today's webinar, we'll be concentrating on an issue that was turning into a licensing liability. But actually, this is one of those rare cases where we have some pretty good news. So let's dive into that. So just a few words to preface the whole subject. Java distributions come in many flavors. The Java source code itself is open. Anybody can make a Java distribution of their taste. So many publishers do it. You know, IBM, SAP, they all have their own distributions, as well as companies like Azul, who offer for-fee support and the making of distributions and patching of these distributions. Also, Amazon has come in as a big player, partly for their cloud, but in the desktop space, their thing is available for anyone to use. But what we're going to be focusing on today is Oracle's Java distributions. And there's two flavors of that. There's the open variety that's called Openjdk, and then there's the proprietary version that's called Oracle Java SE. And the change that we're going to look at is happening in Oracle Java SE. So that's what we want to focus on. Reason being that Oracle a few years ago made Java for charge only, and that has caused a lot of concern, and I think we can say a big backlash from the customer side. A lot of customers have started exploring ways of getting off Java completely, also trying avenues of going to different distributions, or going for the Openjdk and living without the patches, that sort of thing. So Oracle saw that, and I think we can call that a sort of a seismic shift, and they had to react. And so after a few years, they seem to be stepping back into what can be considered the right direction from a customer point of view. So what we see is that in the range of unsupported but patched distributions, Oracle now has an entry there from its closed Java source code variety, Oracle Java SE. And the name of this, actually the abbreviation of this contract is NFDC. It's an abbreviation that we're going to have to learn. And it stands for No Fee Terms and Conditions. This is a new software license agreement. So let's look a bit into how this works. There's nothing really special about it in terms of its characteristics. As usual, we are permitted to develop, test, prototype solutions with Oracle Java SE 17. Also demonstrate these solutions. But the most important thing and the key to most end users in the business space is that it is permitted to run Oracle Java 17 under the NFDC agreement for internal business operations. That means our classic use case of using Java SE in our business environment for whatever application may want to access and use Java. There is also a stipulation in the agreement, and this is for ISVs or distributors, sorry. And that's that they cannot charge customers any fees for distributing the Java code onto computers, be it servers or desktop computers. Oracle, well, I'm not really aware of any distributors charging customers for this, but Oracle felt that it had to be stipulated. Probably it's a protection measure against unwanted costs. Oracle didn't want the benefits of the no fee terms and condition license agreement to be lost for customers by maybe some distributors charging an equivalent amount to the previous fees, and customers not getting the benefit. I think that's the reason behind this point in the agreement. But other than that, it's a very standard. It's a very compact agreement. It's about a page in length, so it's really something very, very short and concise. Besides that, the regular Java SE subscription options are still available, and you may ask, what's the point of keeping that if Java 17 is free again? And actually, there are a few differences between the NFDC flavor and the Java SE subscription flavor. So we'll explore that later in this session. But let's look first at a map of sorts of the license agreements that go with Java and the different options available depending on the version of Java that you're using, because this is significant. In the old world, meaning Java version 6 to 10, we had the Openjdk and we had the proprietary Oracle Java SE distribution. Oracle Openjdk is both open source and for free, so there's no issue there. Comes under the GPL license agreement, so that's all nice and squared away. As far as the proprietary version goes, it came under an agreement called Binary Code License, or BCL for short. And what it meant was that the basic functionality of Java Standard Edition was available at no charge. It was basically for free. And there are some business functions in the Java package that were only available if the customer had a license for it. In the old days, there was a perpetual license that could be purchased, and there was no subscription back then. And well, working with our customers, I haven't seen many customers purchase these licenses. It wasn't something that was frequently used. Fundamentally, the functionality that came at no charge was and is sufficient for normal operations. So there's basically no need to purchase that license. And I think that was part of the problem that Oracle saw, or Oracle's shareholders saw, because coming with the Java 11, Oracle changed licensing completely. And you know, from a contractual point of view, I think we can say that it was at least more clear, because the BCL license, depending on the functionality that you use, is sort of a shapeshifter agreement, and that always has some uncertainty to it. Plus, Oracle explicitly says in the Java licensing information documents that they do not make installation packages that are in correlation with the license additions that you could purchase from them. And that's a big problem and a big compliance risk. And to this day, for everybody using Java 8, this creates sort of a sleeper of a problem. So it's not something that helps us very much in software asset management and risk mitigation. So with Java 11, at least clarity came in to a larger degree, but there were some unwelcome changes as well. In order to make things easier in the technical department, Oracle made a shift and made Openjdk completely code identical to the proprietary distribution. So that was very welcome. On the flip side, Openjdk came into a regime where it has a very short lifespan. Every major version has a 6-month lifespan. So, and of course, no product support or patches after 6 months. So that means that anybody who opts for Openjdk, version 11 through 16, is basically forced to constantly do regression tests and development work in order to sustain the Java environment, and that is probably very work intensive, and well, I'm not sure if it's a realistic proposition. So I think the aim behind that was to push everybody, well, gently, or well, not quite so gently, into the direction of purchasing a Java subscription. And but the fundamental idea of paying something for Java, I don't think anybody objected to it very much. It all depended on how much Oracle charged for Java. And the problem was that I think Oracle put the prices a little too high. You know, for a desktop user, $30 per year may not sound much, but if we're talking about thousands of users, even with bandit pricing and better pricing for higher quantities, it still costs a lot. And this is the cheaper side, because for server computers, Java SE is a core-based proposition, and anybody who has large VMware clusters has to pay a very, very high price for having Java deployed, even for a single virtual machine. And that's a big risk and a huge cost item that nobody wanted. And I think the price was set too high for anybody just to swallow that without complaint. And that's, I think, part of the reason why companies started looking at alternatives and started finding avenues to migrate away from Java within a few years. And then here we are with Java 17, the next long-term support release after Java 11. And here we see a change. Oracle started to react, had to react, I think, because the Java community is first of all very large, and the devices that run Java are in the billions, as we all know from Java installers. So it's a huge installed base and a huge user base for Oracle to do something with that. And I think it's not in their interest to lose that. And of course, if huge amounts of customers migrated away from Java, that would also impact in the long run things like WebLogic sales and you know, Oracle's position at customers as a whole. So that was something that went into an undesirable direction for Oracle. So we now have with Java 17 a closed code but free edition or distribution of Java 17. which is I think very welcome. Besides that, if you want things like support, or if you want the fancy features that are included in Java SE as a subscription license, you can still buy the subscription, and you can go with that if you need that. But at least now we don't have this huge problem anymore where we need to identify how many applications are using a Java that is not packaged by the publisher. On which computers do we have instances of Java that we need to actually license, and we don't need to do any optimization of arranging these machines into clusters that makes it more optimal. It's a big hassle off our backs, and that's good news. Right. So if we want to look at the difference between the no-fee terms and conditions edition and the subscription edition of Java, the major difference is, well, actually the only difference is that there are these so-called business functions. Java Mission Control, well, for older versions, of course, Java Usage Tracker, Advanced Management Console, and GraalVM Enterprise. These are the packages that are only part of the subscription version, and you need to buy the subscription to access these. Of course, you also get support if you need it. That goes without saying. So this is basically it. And in my experience, very few, if any, companies use these fancy features. I mean, Java Usage Tracker would be a nice to have for free, because it would help customers in their compliance efforts. It would be a great help in identifying or the usage that exists on the various computers, and you could have a definite picture of what you have. At the moment, it's mostly guesswork. Years after 11 came out, it's still a lot of guesswork, a lot of investigation, a lot of manual tasks that need to be performed, and the results are still uncertain. So it's not a good situation that Java 11 brought in. So therefore, all of this is very welcome, and this is now, I think, a real alternative to buying a subscription or exploring other distributions, and the associated development work, testing work, all of that pain. Let's look at Java 17 NFDC versus the different distributions and versions to get a clearer picture of where we stand with this one now. So the difference between the NFDC flavor and the proprietary flavor, or the subscription flavor, is that obviously there's no charge. And that could go hand in hand with not getting patches. And that would be, the stick that would force customers into paying subscription after all. But luckily, Oracle has seen the light. Maybe it's a bit preposterous to say that, but definitely saw the need to provide basic functionality for free again. So what they do now, or what they promise now, is that there will be long-term patching for 17 NFDC, and this will come at no charge. So not even a reduced charge. It will come completely free. Of course, you get no support, but I don't know of very many customers who actually submit support requests to Oracle related to Java. So I don't think there's a significant problem with that. Now, if you pay for a subscription, then you get all the business functionality, all those modules that we saw on the previous slide, and you also get support. So that's basically it. That's what you get, and if you need it, you can have it. But now there's I think there will not be a feeling of paying a huge sum of money for very little value in return. So I think this is a good thing. Let's just reflect for a moment on the same for Java SE 11, and if we switch back and forth between these slides, there's nothing that differs between 11 and 17 for the subscription edition. I think the only highlight is that compared to 11, now Java SE 17 comes free of charge again after 8. So that was sorely missed for a number of years now, and now we finally have it back. So that's a very good thing. I think of most interest to everyone is the situation between or the relationship between Java SE 8 and 17 NFDC. The basic functions are free of charge in both of these, so there's no difference in that. Long-term patching at no charge is also the same thing. If we look back at Java 8 and how it's progressed through its life cycle, we can see that in effect it had the same model. Patching was provided for not just the next LTS version plus 1 year, but for actually 2-3 years after that. So with Java 8, I think Oracle was being very generous. And I think, if we look at the whole issue from Oracle's point of view, we can also argue that Oracle is sort of paying a price for being too generous. We could say that. But obviously, we are not obliged to look at this thing from Oracle's perspective. We are entitled to our own end user perspective. So in terms of the difference between SE8 and SE17, long-term patching is the same. Basic functionality only is the same, and support was not available without a charge for SE8, and it is not available for 17 either. There's also another difference that I think is important, and it's that Java SE17 is code identical to Openjdk. So if anybody wants to switch from Openjdk back to Oracle's JDK, they can now do that without any risks. As far as compatibility goes between 8 and 17, there is a big difference between these versions. Oracle has removed a number of features that applications still use in Java 8, and that leaves a lot of customers being unable to upgrade from 8 to a higher version. So that issue has not been resolved by this move, not at all. But I think at least there is now an avenue in which customers can explore the development needs of migrating from 8 to 17 and staying in the same sort of lane, not having to cope with additional difficulties or complexities that would come in by switching to a different distribution. So, this is sort of a peacekeeper version or peacekeeper license agreement, in my opinion. If we look at Openjdk 8 and 17, so as we are switching to the open source flavor now, the only difference here between 8 and 17 is that code identical the identicalness of the code is not provided with 8, is present with 17, and also the life cycle has been reduced with the later Java version, so it's a 6-month version life cycle. So I don't think that this would be realistic for a business environment. So there's no change with 17 in Openjdk. So there's nothing more to say to that. Let's compare Java 8 and Java 17 in terms of what's included. And you can see on the right, Java Mission Control, Java Usage Tracker, and Advanced Management Console are the same content. GraalVM Enterprise is the only difference because that is not available for Java 8. It's only available for, I think, 11 and above. Otherwise, the two versions are identical from a licensing point of view. NFDC is the same as using the basic functions under the BCL license for version 8. Yeah. All right. So, in terms of the storyline, I think we've come sort of full circle, or we've turned back into the right direction now. Java 11 was a digression. Sort of Oracle wanted to turn the clock anti-clockwise and make everybody pay, and they set the price very high to make it really painful to stay on Java, but probably still cheaper than migrating away. And that hasn't worked out very well. And the backlash from customers is, I think, severe, and nobody wants to pay this. And the other problem is that from a compliance and risk management point of view, it's not a task that can be tackled very easily. Most of our customers are still grappling with this issue. They are still trying to find out how many applications, which servers, which virtual machines, which environments need to be licensed, and it's a hard nut to crack. And if Oracle were to come and audit customers for Java, I think it would be very difficult for them to make a case for any punishment or penalties, because it is extremely difficult or maybe impossible to prove. If we look at each and every instance of Java, whether that is covered by a license that some application provides or not. Also, I think there would be a lot of problems between customers and ISVs who provide an application for them with Java included, because if let's say the agreement for this application was signed 5 years ago, in that case, the ISV probably didn't budget for a Java license in the total fees that they are invoicing the customer or have been invoicing to the customer, and the price increase is often very difficult to push through. And I think this scenario, if pushed further by audits, would have created a lot of friction between not just Oracle and the end users, but also between Oracle and developers. And I think somewhere in between all of these aspects is sort of the truth, or a mix of these aspects is sort of the reason why Oracle went back to a free version of its Oracle Java SE platform. So if we have a feeling of déjà vu, that I think is perfectly justified in this case. Oracle, I think, has made a retreat and gone back quite precisely to the way things were before. The license agreement is different, but in effect, the way it works, the mechanics of the whole thing is the same as before. The added benefit is that we now have a much lower software asset management risk, a much lower compliance risk. The way Java 17 works is that if you download the NFTC install package, you don't get any of the business functionality included in that. So you are not installing functionality that would require a license, and you cannot therefore use functionality that would require a for-charge license. And that is a big plus compared to the days of Java 8, where Oracle explicitly did not make installation packages that corresponded to the licensing editions of Java. So I think that is basically it, and this is very good news all around, I think. So I think this is one of those moments where we can be genuinely happy and look forward to getting rid of a big concern off our backs. So with that, thanks for your attendance today. I hope you gained some interesting insight into how Java licensing has changed. And before we go, let me just quickly reference our Licensing Academy program. We have our spring sessions underway. Our next courses will be Microsoft Specialized License Academy, followed by SAP and Oracle in early and mid-May. And we are looking forward to you visiting us in those seminars, and hope you can improve your knowledge in licensing and practical application of licensing. So thank you very much, and have a very nice day.